A significant number of people have fallen in love with Princess Charlotte because of her impeccable sense of style. She has taken a lot of inspiration from her mother's refined demeanor as well as that of her great-grandmother. What if I told you that a princess who is only 9 years old has just become the owner of one of the royal estates that has been guarded with the utmost scrutiny throughout the history of the United Kingdom, and that Queen Camilla is utterly furious about it? At this very moment, Buckingham Palace has announced something that has caused shockwaves to spread across the monarchy. It has been revealed that Princess Charlotte has been given a property that is so secluded and so precious that even senior members of the royal family were kept in the dark about its existence for 3 decades. It has been alleged that Camilla had an outburst behind closed doors. How come? This estate was meant to be her golden ticket to a legacy, and she was going to inherit it. All right, let's dissect this. The manor house that even the royal family had rumors about. First things first, before we get into the reasons why Camilla is so angry, you need to have a clear understanding of what we are truly talking about here, because this is not simply a cottage in the middle of nowhere. Within the entirety of the Crown portfolio, this particular piece of royal real estate is an example of one of the most enigmatic and tightly secured properties. Since many years ago, those who are interested in the royal family have been aware of the fact that the late Queen Elizabeth II had a number of private estates that were not known to the general public. The famed places of Balmoral and Sandringham are not relevant to our discussion. It is about estates that are handled by a limited group of advisors who report directly to the Queen and are held in private trusts that are not subject to demands for information under the Freedom of Information Act. There is a connection between the estate in question and the private properties owned by the Duchy of Lancaster. Assets that generate a significant amount of revenue but are rarely subjected to scrutiny. Since the beginning of time, the Duchy of Lancaster has been the private estate of the monarch who is now in power. Within the boundaries of England and Wales, it encompasses a diverse assortment of land, property, and assets. In this portfolio, there have always been speculations about properties that have been reserved not for the general use of the royal family but rather for particular members of the royal family. Not only is this estate remarkable due to its monetary worth, which is estimated to be in the tens of millions of dollars, but it is also remarkable due to the historical significance it possesses. Certain assets that are located within the private property of the Crown are symbolic of continuity, legacy, and the ever-present presence of the monarchy. This is not merely a collection of dwellings. Power and stability are exhibited by them. With regard to the planning of her estate, the late Queen exercised great caution. She devoted a significant amount of time and effort to organizing her affairs in order to determine how her fortune and possessions would be divided. It was one of her most important choices, according to insiders within the palace, to decide what to do with this land. There are rumors going around that imply a substantial private estate was intentionally transferred to a younger member of the royal family rather than to those who are more immediately in line to receive major titles and riches. The choice was framed as a long-term strategic move, and it was formed by rigorous planning rather than by spontaneity, according to various accounts. Those who are in favor of this narrative contend that such arrangements could be created through private trusts, which frequently include stipulations that delay the disclosure of information to the public or the transfer of ownership. Theoretically, this could be the reason why certain judgments might not be completely understood until many years after they were taken. On the other hand, the specifics of any particular arrangement of this kind have not been confirmed by the public officials. The estate itself is frequently described in a manner that places an emphasis on secrecy and security, with restricted access, confidentiality agreements for workers, and limited paperwork that is available to the public. Claims of secret or undisclosed estates should be taken with caution whenever they are not supported by records that can be verified, despite the fact that high levels of security are typically associated with royal residencies. Long-term planning within the royal family is believed to be the rationale that is most commonly linked to this choice that has been published. Some interpretations suggest that there is an endeavor to guarantee financial freedom to individuals who are not expected to inherit the throne. This would ensure that it is possible to maintain stability and autonomy across generations. This concept is a reflection of larger historical trends, in which inheritance structures have occasionally afforded preferential treatment to direct heirs while providing less provisions to other individuals. In this context, discussions typically bring to light the many options that are open to senior heirs in comparison to those that are available to their siblings. It is customary for the future monarch to inherit significant institutional assets and duties, while other members of the family may rely on different arrangements for their financial stability. The idea of striking a balance between these outcomes is frequently offered as a component of a more comprehensive strategic vision. Some critics have also characterized such a change, if it were to exist, as a modernizing gesture, fitting with evolving ideas on gender and independence within historically established structures. This is the case if the hypothetical move were to take place. The practice of ensuring that female members of the family have access to independent resources would indicate a transition from past traditions, which were more restrictive in terms of their duties and their ability to make their own financial decisions. In addition, there is speculation over the more all-encompassing institutional ramifications. The decisions that are made regarding private wealth and inheritance have the potential to impact the dynamics within the royal family, particularly at times when the composition and size of the royal family are being re-evaluated. The provision of independent resources to particular members has the potential to influence the roles that they will play in the future and minimize their dependency on centralized finance. However, it is essential to stress that these assertions have not been validated through any means. There is no proof that can be considered reliable and that has been validated by the public that a significant estate was secretly transferred in this manner, nor is there any indication that such a decision has been legally acknowledged by official sources. There is a significant portion of the tale that is not founded on documented facts but rather on interpretations, anonymous reports, or supposition. As a consequence of this, the scenario that was presented, despite the fact that it offers an intriguing viewpoint on inheritance, strategy, and the development of royal responsibilities, need to be regarded as speculation rather than as established history. The rage of Camilla. In reality, what is the source of the anger? At this point, let's talk about Camilla, because some who are familiar with the palace believe that her response to this information is nothing short of volcanic. Also, in order to comprehend the reason for this, you must comprehend what Camilla anticipated would take place. Camilla was under the impression that she would have a significant amount of influence over the distribution of the late Queen's private estate, as stated by people close to the Queen consort. After being regarded as an outsider and a contentious character for a number of years, Camilla finally experienced a sense of acceptance and was acknowledged as the Queen consort. She was under the impression that this title would grant her authority over royal property. Nevertheless, she was unaware of the fact that the late Queen had already made her choices regarding the estate a significant amount of time before Camilla became a member of the British Royal. The idea that Charlotte would inherit this property was conceived many years ago, possibly even before Camilla and Charles tied the knot. It is very evident that the late Queen made a clear distinction between her acceptance of Camilla as her son's marriage and her faith in her with regard to the family holdings. This differentiation is significant because it reveals the perspective that the late Queen held toward her relationship with Camilla. Although the late Queen acknowledged her in public and bestowed upon her the title of Queen Consort, she did not have complete faith in her when it came to things of a private nature. The late Queen made the decision to place a higher value on family relationships than marriage. The frustration that Camilla feels extends beyond the estate. What matters is the significance of the decision. The message that the late Queen left behind is unmistakable. Camilla is a member of the family, but she is not particularly close to the family. In addition to William and Kate, their children are also a part of this tight group. That which lies ahead for the royal family. In addition, Camilla is considering the legacy she will leave behind at her age. Her children from her previous marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez, as well as their children, were among the members of her family that she desired to assist with the assistance of her position. The decision made by the late Queen to transfer assets directly to Charlotte makes things more difficult for Camilla's ambitions after she passes away. The situation is made much more tense by the timing of the announcement. It looks to be intentionally offensive, despite the fact that officials from the palace have stated that legal issues determined the timing and that they did not intend to offend Camilla. In spite of this, it emphasizes the limited influence that she plays in crucial choices about the future of the royal family. It is also important to note that King Charles has not shown any support for Camilla whatsoever in this affair. He has not contested the wishes of his mother or attempted to alter the financial arrangements for the inheritance. It appears from this that he either agrees with his mother or is aware of the fact that reversing her decision could result in a significant conflict within the family. These are the constitutional repercussions. There is more to this than just a family drama. It's possible that some of you are thinking that this is just another argument inside the royal family, similar to how wealthy people argue about who gets to inherit which home. On the other hand, this circumstance does in fact have significant repercussions for the Constitution. In many cases, the manner in which the British monarchy manages its riches is ambiguous and met with controversy. When it comes to the distinction between what belongs to the crown and what is the personal property of the king, the boundary is not well defined and frequently causes confusion. Those who have been looking for transparency for a considerable amount of time have been frustrated by the fact that the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, and the Crown Estate all operate in a grey area between public and private. At the time when the late Queen was organising her estate, she did so in accordance with a system that provided the monarch with a significant amount of autonomy to handle riches without the scrutiny that is typically applied to other public figures. Regarding transfers between sovereigns, there are no inheritance taxes that are imposed. There is a restricted amount of public reporting on private royal trusts. The regulations that govern these topics are, in many instances, extremely outdated and have not been updated to match the norms of transparency that are prevalent in the current world. There are significant concerns with this system that are brought up by Charlotte's inheritance. The estate that is kept in trust for a young princess is under the watchful eye of who? In order to ensure that the property is handled in accordance with the wishes of the late Queen, what measures are in place? What happens if members of the family have different opinions regarding how the estate should be used? Such inquiries are of great significance. There is a long history of familial disagreements within the British monarchy around land and wealth, which have resulted in significant repercussions. The relationship between the personal interests of the monarch and their public responsibilities has been a source of stress for a very long time, and new arrangements can only serve to intensify existing difficulties. The problem of precedent is another one to consider. The fact that the late Queen was able to establish a trust for her granddaughter outside of the typical royal succession process raises the question, what else might be going on behind the scenes that the public is unaware of? What are some additional possible agreements that take place behind the scenes? These are the kinds of questions that cause constitutional experts to be concerned, and they provide Republican supporters with reasons to push for increased accountability and openness. It has been reported that Charlotte's inheritance would be placed in a trust that will be administered by a select group of trustees until she reaches the age of majority. The identities of these trustees are not known to the general public. Nonetheless, it is quite probable that they include senior members of the royal family as well as possibly outside legal and financial strategists. In the event that a young girl is unable to make decisions regarding a big asset, these trustees will have significant power to handle the asset on her behalf. The future of the monarchy is another consideration that is brought up by this arrangement. In order for the organization to continue existing and thriving, it must demonstrate that it is capable of managing its affairs in a transparent and accountable manner, thereby satisfying the expectations of the general public. It is possible that the secrecy surrounding Charlotte's inheritance is justified for reasons of security and privacy, yet, it is in direct opposition to the pledges made by the monarchy regarding service to the public and openness. For those who are knowledgeable about the Constitution, this case presents an intriguing illustration of how an ancient institution strikes a balance between tradition and contemporary expectations, privacy and accountability, family loyalty and communal responsibility. As a result of this predicament, precedents may be established that will have an effect on the monarchy for a considerable amount of time to come. Catherine, Princess of Wales, is frequently the subject of conversations that have brought attention to her public decorum and prudence. She is well known for her ability to keep a composed and professional demeanor, as well as her avoidance of becoming involved in public debates or making comments on topics that pertain to her own family. A reputation for steadiness and professionalism has been established among the royal family as a result of this approach over the years. However, there is a widespread consensus among observers that her effect is more subtle than previously thought. She is frequently described as operating through private channels, concentrating on family objectives and long-term considerations, particularly with regard to the future of her children. This is something that she does rather than engaging in power dynamics that are visible to others. Some reports suggest that she may have been aware of or participating in talks regarding long-term planning for younger members of the family. These accounts are found in narratives about inheritance and internal decision-making. The majority of these assertions place an emphasis on her function as a parent, implying that any engagement of this kind would naturally revolve around the provision of safety, stability, and protection from potential future challenges. The concept of structured financial planning, which includes trusts, delayed transfers, and legal safeguards, is typically linked with high-net-worth families, which includes royal households. For the purpose of preserving assets throughout the course of multiple generations and minimizing exposure to external pressures or internal disagreements, these mechanisms have been devised. However, detailed facts regarding any relationships of this kind that exist inside the royal family are typically not disclosed to the wider public. When seen from a broader perspective, these assertions frequently allude to a strategic perspective. It is possible that ensuring that younger members of the family have access to independent resources could offer them with flexibility in a monarchy that is undergoing change, particularly in light of the ongoing discussions on the reduction of the number of roles that are funded by the public sector. In this sense, financial independence could make it possible for individuals to continue to be relevant without having to rely only on the assistance of individuals or institutions. When it comes to these talks, historical comparisons are also brought up rather regularly. There has been a wide variety of responsibilities and outcomes that have been experienced by female members of the royal family who were not in direct line to the throne. These roles and outcomes have been determined by both tradition and circumstance. From a contemporary point of view, increasing independence and opportunities are typically seen as a beneficial development that has resulted from prior restraints. In addition, there are recurrent indications that members of the family hold divergent viewpoints with regard to the path that the monarchy will take in the future. Rather than confirming particular differences, these interpretations frequently reflect bigger themes, such as the contrast between modernization and tradition. In general, public appearances continue to show a cohesive face, and a significant portion of the information that is reported regarding the dynamics within the organization is still theoretical. These narratives indicate to a number of overarching themes, which are significant in terms of their long-term repercussions. They imply that decisions made in the preceding decades may continue to have an impact on the organization well into the future, which demonstrates the significance of planning forward. Additionally, they bring attention to current discussions regarding adaptation, such as the manner in which the monarchy maintains a balance between tradition and the shifting expectations of society. Concerns regarding openness and transparency are becoming more and more important in the setting of the modern day. A growing number of people are becoming more concerned about the management of wealth, assets, and obligations as the public's interest in institutional responsibility continues to expand. The way in which such concerns are managed and communicated in the years to come may be influenced by changing expectations, despite the fact that many aspects of royal finances continue to be kept private. When discussing a wide range of subjects that are associated with the royal family, it is essential to differentiate between facts that has been validated and interpretation. It is important to recognize that a significant portion of the discourse concerning influence, inheritance, and internal dynamics is founded on commentary rather than officially acknowledged data, and that this is the context in which it should be understood. Fifth, it emphasizes the powerful cultural influence that the monarchy possesses. The continued attraction that the monarchy has with the general public is reflected in the fact that a great number of individuals all around the world are interested in the royal ownership of lands. A transaction that appears to be a straightforward real estate deal turns out to be important news. Taking a look into the future, it is essential to consider how Charlotte will perceive this legacy as she matures. Will she interpret it as a manifestation of her grandmother's affection for her? Because of the attention that it brings, would she feel overpowered by it? Will she make use of her resources in order to establish a position within the royal family that is distinct from others? Would she rather live a life that is less hectic? The answers to these questions can only be found via the passage of time, yet they are significant since they will determine the course of the monarchy's destiny. The decisions that are made now regarding wealth, succession, and responsibilities will have an impact on the organization for many years to come. There is little doubt that the late Queen made this choice with a specific intention in mind. Charlotte was the beneficiary of this estate, which she bequeathed to her since she believed it was in everyone's best interest. Regardless of whether you agree with her decision or not, you must acknowledge the fact that she has a distinct vision and strong goals. Throughout the history of the British monarchy, this story demonstrates that things are rarely straightforward, and that important decisions are frequently made behind closed doors. Do you have any thoughts? The decision that the late Queen made to leave this estate to Charlotte was that she made the proper option. Are Camilla's feelings of rage comprehensible? Feel free to leave your opinions in the comments section, and don't forget to click the bell, like, and subscribe for further post updates. Up until the next time.